Hi there, this is Dara here from Nurture, and in this tutorial I'm going to cover the last of our three session types, which is the only session type available at the moment that you run outside of class, which is an assessment. Okay, so this, if you watch the last tutorial on the live quiz, this works the exact same way. Okay, you're creating hinge questions. However, the only difference here is this isn't a live in-class session you run, and this is something that students can complete in their own time. There's also a reflection at the end that you can assign to your students for them to submit before they get their score. So in this video, I'm going to show you this both from the teacher side and the student side. And again, just to stay on topic, I'm just going to, just like the last two tutorials, I'm going to focus this on a history-based assessment. But if you check out some of the later tutorials, I'm going to show you how you create sessions for other subjects as well. Okay. So with this, again, this is just going to be on the topic of the invasion of Normandy. My display name is the name that will show to my students. And in terms of generating with AI, we just want to put in something here that essentially describes what we taught to these students in a lesson, because I want them to do an assessment or homework on the lesson that I just taught. Again, the more detail that we can include here, the better. So for this one, this is a breakdown of the lesson that we had. Again, this is for year 9 history. I'm being very clear on that, so that the questions it generates are kind of aligned with year 9 history. Here are all the different topics that were subtopics that were covered within the lesson. And in terms of the number of questions I want to create, I can add more questions in here than if it was a live in-class session, because again, the students can complete this in their own time. And because they are completing it outside of class, they can get through more questions much quicker in their own time versus an in-class assessment. Because when we're doing this in class, we're just checking for understanding. We don't want to check every single little niche, little subtopic within everything. We just want to do 2 or 3 simple check-in points throughout a lesson to ensure that my students aren't wildly misunderstanding the topic as a whole. But when I'm using a quiz assessment, this is where I can actually generate a lot more questions and actually get a much clearer reading on everything that my students don't understand. So in this example, I'm actually going to go with 10 questions, and I can set a due date here if I want. Now, today is Wednesday, August the 19th. By default, we'd set this to be a week out, but let's say I don't see these students until I see them again on Monday maybe. So I'm going to give them until Sunday night to submit it at 5 p.m. Will I allow late submissions? I can turn this on if I want, but let's say if you don't want to allow late submissions, all this will mean is that your students will not get the chance to submit after the due date. But if you do allow late submissions, they can submit it, but we do flag it to you that it is a late submission. Okay, I'm just going to leave that on for now. And then if you have the premium version of Nurture Signal, you're allowed to get Signal to give personalized feedback to the students immediately. Now, this is AI generated. You will get to review it before it goes out. But this essentially means that once they submit an answer and a question, and then they do all their reflections at the end, they can get personalized feedback on each one of their answers. Okay, but if you're not comfortable with that though, you can turn this off, but just for this tutorial I am going to leave that switched on. Now again, I can assign this to different groups if I want to. Again, I covered these in a previous tutorial. Groups are essentially like folders, or you can have a group for a specific class, a group for a specific group of students. I don't have any group in here for now, but so I'm just going to leave that at no group. I am just going to allow guest participants just for this example. And as I covered in a past tutorial, this option for shuffle, quiz, and poll answer options. Now what this does is, on your side, it's going to generate a bunch of hinge questions. So they're going to be multiple choice questions with A, B, C, and D. And one of them might be a correct answer. Let's say it's B. For each student, it can shuffle those around. So if the correct answer is B, it may not always be B for a certain student, okay? The correct answer will always be the correct answer, but it just won't appear in the same order across all of your different students. That's again, just in case your students might be doing this alongside each other, and we don't want them to be saying, oh, it's definitely answer B, it's definitely answer C, this is what I answered for this one. Again, we just want students to be actually thinking about their correct answer here. So really useful feature if you want to be able to shuffle them so that students aren't just asking their friends. For now, I'm just going to leave this off for this demo though. I'm just going to click next. Now what this is going to do is going to generate your session. Now, just one thing to note, the more questions you requested to generate, the longer it may take, but it should generate all of your questions within less than a minute. Now, it may fail to generate the first time. If it does, just try again and it should be good. And we can see here that it has generated 10 questions for me here. And it's also generated confidence and reflection, okay? Now, these two options you can't turn lead off, but you can tweak them a little bit. Now, these are essentially the last steps that students complete on these assessments. So after they've completed all their answers, we want to show them, or we want them to be able to answer, okay, how confident were you in all your answers? And add a comment on them, okay? And then finally, once they submit that, they will get all of the questions back, then see what they got right and wrong. And then to actually unlock their full score and all of their feedback, they have to complete one more point of reflection, which is how do you feel about your feedback? So again, disappointed, neutral, or happy. And they answer a reflection here. I can change the reflection to be just a simple open reflection. I can change this to be a Gibbs cycle reflection, which is really in depth. There's like 5 questions in this one. And there's a 3-2-1 reflection. So that's totally up to you as a teacher, how you want your students to be able to reflect. I can actually turn this one off as well if I want to. I can actually turn off the confidence as well if I want to. But at the very minimum, you should be collecting the confidence from your students because it gives them something to reflect on their answers. And that's a really important thing within everything that we're trying to achieve with Nurture, is that we want students thinking about their answers and their learning rather than just focusing too much on the answer itself, okay? So those are just confidence and reflection that I just wanted to call out at the end of the quiz. Okay, the questions themselves. So these are obviously all just in draft mode because we haven't published this yet, but we can see here that we have got 10 questions. Now, I think by default for now, they're all single answer. But if I want to edit any of these questions to be multiple answer, I could do that. So to do that, I would just click on the edit question button. So I'm on question 9 here. So I click on 3 dots, I click edit, and I'll just click multiple here, okay? And in this box, I'm going to just say, make this
have more than one correct answer.
I'll just click rewrite, and it will rewrite the question. It will give me 5 different answer options and 2 correct ones. If I want, I could remove some of these answer options as well. But one thing I just want to note and call out is that every time that it generates a question, and this is important for both the assessment and also if you're doing this live as a live in class, is each time it generates an answer, this answer explanation goes through all of the different answer options. And again, we're generating hinge questions, so each wrong answer is like a diagnostic. Not that we're trying to catch students out, but if a student selects a wrong answer, it should be able to give you a bit of an insight into maybe why they selected that wrong answer. So this answer explanation typically will, of course, explain why the right answer is right, but it'll also explain why the wrong answers are wrong. So if you remove any of these wrong answers here, some of that information may still remain in the answer explanation. So it's worth just rewrite. If you remove a question, just come up here and just say rewrite the explanation, and it should give you a new explanation to work from. Okay, so that is the question here. The formatting options, I'm going to cover those in a later tutorial for maths and science because this just helps with things like superscripts. And then in your settings, you can ask for a reason, so you can get the student to explain their answer. Now, by default, we set this to required. Again, we want to gather as much information on students' thinking as we want, but you can make it optional, or you could don't show it at all. So if you don't show it at all, the student just needs to select an answer and then move on. If it's optional, they can type in their reasoning, and obviously if it's required, they have to type in their reasoning in order to move on to the next question. Okay, so that is how you create single answer and multiple answer quiz questions. Just need to click Save Question. I could add more questions here, and I've covered this in the last video as well, but we've got two other question types here. We've got poll and we've got open answer. Okay, now by default, or the first time we generated the assessment as a whole, it's not going to generate these question types simply because we do give them to you as an option, but they don't give you as much insight into students' understanding. Okay, so a poll works the exact same way as a quiz question or a hinge question, except there's no correct answer. So that essentially is just a simple polling tool, but it works the exact same as that quiz question. Okay, and an open answer then is exactly what it says in the tin. It's not a multiple choice question. You give the students a short answer question and then to type in their answer. Okay, however, with that, you need to have a couple of additional things with that. So that needs to have success criteria. It needs to have a model answer. And this is, otherwise we can't generate personalized feedback based off this, because there's simply just not enough information for the Nurture AI to be able to generate any meaningful feedback about this, about a student's answer, because they could type anything in here and it doesn't really tell me exactly whether they're correct or incorrect. Whereas with a quiz question, it's very much were they correct or were they incorrect. Okay. One thing I didn't mention is this explanation piece. So this is the feedback that they're going to get when they actually go to unlock their feedback. So this is that AI generated feedback I was telling you about. They will get that on each question once they complete their confidence piece and their reflection. And if you don't want that showing it to them, you can just go into edit session details and just turn off give participants personalized feedback. Okay, so once I'm happy with all the questions I have in here, I can just click publish, and this quiz has now been open. So just like the other session types, students need to join via a join link or a code. So I'll just click this join link. I'll send it to my students and they can access it at any time, submit all their answers and submit their confidence and their reflection, and they can read it in their own time. Okay, now if you are on Teams or on Canvas, your students may see this on their side as soon as it's published. Maybe they don't necessarily need to join via the join link. Check out any tutorials specific to Canvas or Teams for that. But what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to hop over to the student side and show what this looks like on the student side, and then I'll show you what this looks like on the teacher side as well. So on the student side, once they open up the link, they just need to enter in their name. So for this, I'm just going to enter in the student. I'll just click join session. And once this opens for me, I have all 10 questions in front of me. I have a confidence piece, but I need to complete each question one by one before I move forward. So answering them is very straightforward. I just need to select whatever answer I feel is the correct one and add an explanation on them. Remember, in the setup as a teacher, I required an explanation for each of them, but you can customize this for each individual question. If it's set to optional, then as a student, I could move on. But in this case, I do need to explain. Okay. Now for this tutorial, I'm just going to go through each question one by one and add an explanation. And I'll just jump forward to what the confidence looks like and the reflection piece looks like as well. And once I have all 10 questions answered, the final piece I need to do to submit this is actually answer how confident I was in my answers. So this is just overall how the student felt about them. So in this case, this is student self-reflection here. So in this case, the student might say maybe they felt neutral about their answers. So anything they found tricky, they might say, I
think I got question 5 definitely wrong, and I took a fair amount of guesses, but the ones I added explanations for
So you can see there as I'm typing this out, we do require a minimum character count just so that students aren't just typing one singular card they're in just to get past the form. So they'll just click submit and review feedback. And what this is going to do is going to read the answers, check their correct ones, and prepare a feedback page for them. Okay. And this is going to see what answers they got correct, and it's going to give personalized feedback to them. Now, this is personalized to the student. Okay. So this is the original explanation that we generated at the time. So this is like that explanation that the teacher got when the question was generated, and you can review that in your own entirety. But because we had the personalized feedback toggle on, what this has done is it's taken the student's answer, it's taken their explanation, and it compares that against the original explanation to create personalized feedback on that student's reasoning. Okay. Now, if we toggle that off, this personalized feedback wouldn't show, and it would just show, they could just show the original explanation as you would have set it as the teacher. Okay. Now, first two ones I got correct. The second one I got incorrect, just on purpose, just to show what that looks like. So for this student, so right now we got personalized feedback. That's a little bit more in depth. I can still see the original explanation. And then as we go down through them, we can see all of our correct and incorrect answers here. Okay. Now, just this question 9, I actually forgot that this was the multiple choice one, and it only selected one correct answer. So I got one out of the two of them correct here. So that'll be interesting to see what that looks like on the teacher side in a moment. And then we can see our confidence. And then the final piece to unlock our score is just to complete this reflection. So how do I feel about how I did on this quiz? Again, I'm feeling neutral, but this, I in my confidence reflection piece, I knew that it was going to be just about around here. So what I need to do is just complete this reflection piece, and this will unlock my score on the quiz. I've entered in an answer just for each of these 5 questions here, and I'll just click unlock score. And we can see here that out of the score, I answered 10 questions. I got 4 of them correct, and I got 5 of them incorrect. One of them was somewhat correct though. So that is the question that was the one with multiple choice answers. I can see that obviously I got that somewhat correct because I selected one of the correct answers but not the other. Okay, so what does this then look like on the teacher side? I'm just going to jump over and we can have a... So on the teacher side, now I only have one student that submitted this right now, but if you had multiple students that submitted here, you'd have a lot more data in here. I can go through each individual question and I can look at every one of my individual answers. If I have more than 2 submitted students on each question, I can get answer insights on each question. But if I want, I can go straight to any of these confidence or reflection pieces to get a better understanding of my students' self-reflection. If there was the multiple and correct answer one, we can see here that we can see some, the partially correct ones, anything that was all incorrect, anything that was all correct, or anything that was just incorrect. And if I close the quiz in its entirety, it will give me that overall session insight. Okay, now obviously I just have one student here in this example, but once you do close that quiz out, it will give you an overall picture of how your students did. Just like the other session types too, we have all these other settings here as well, so you could export this out to PDF. You also have a presenter view if you maybe want to share this on the board in class, but again, that's probably not too relevant with a quiz assessment because you'll be getting students to complete this in their own time. But overall, that is how you run a quiz assessment on Nurture Signal. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. In the next couple of tutorials, I'm going to go through how to create these live quizzes and assessment quizzes for other specific subject areas. I'm not going to cover how students can submit them. I'm just going to show you how you can set them up. But the student submission process is the same throughout all of them. So have a look at that, and if you have any feedback or questions, please feel free to reach out.